Hey everybody, my name is Jay, and this is Eye of a Samurai, and today we're going to have our first international guest. You can tell that it's Skill versus Yuttoto. Unfortunately, as far as I know, Yuttoto doesn't speak English, so this would be very difficult to have with him. But luckily, I was able to get the Season 1 champion, the best Mitsurugi player in the world in Soul Calibur 6. It's Skill. Skill, hello.
Hello, JJJ. How are you doing?
Doing alright. Thanks again for coming. I very much
Yeah.
appreciate getting to talk about offline matches yet again. It became immediately a huge rarity to actually get
Yeah.
to talk about actual matches as opposed to matches where, when I was analyzing online stuff, I always have to kind of give the preface of, yeah, I don't really know if this is what the player wanted. There might have been a little bit of lag. He dropped this punish, but did he actually drop this punish? And there were always these prefaces that I don't really have to do in offline matches, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I can't wait already for the next offline event, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't think it's going to be that much longer. There's already tournament organizers talking about hosting more things locally. Big E, who hosts things like Summer Jam, Winter Brawl, and NEC. He's already talking about NEC is almost definitely going to be happening, but that's obviously in December. Summer Jam might even be happening as well. That would be in August. We'll see if that actually happens. That might be a bit too early. There might be like a requirement for having those cards that show that you've been vaccinated and everything, but let's
Yeah.
we will see when it happens. I know small offline gatherings are occurring now, which is very nice. But we will talk about the match that you had against Yuttoto as losers finals. Mitsurugi versus Yuttoto. Is this the third time you played against Yuttoto in tournament or second?
Uh, it's third, at least third, I think.
Okay,
Maybe even more. Yeah, third, I think. So first one was
right.
Evo US.
Yeah, that's the
Then
one that
there
everybody
was
remembers.
I also remember the one in the World Invitational one. I
Okay.
played against Yutoto there too.
Whenever I play Mitsurugi in this game, one of the things, because I was a Mitsurugi player in 5, transferring over here, the main thing that always is so difficult for me, that I would imagine is difficult for any Mitsurugi player, is the fact that you really don't have pokes. You really don't have the same level of reach that you used to. You basically kind of have to get in and do mix it, but there's like this obstacle course you have to deal with, and you got a really good backdash. But how exactly does one incorporate a good backdash against a character like Voldo, who has limbs that are incredibly long? I would imagine that's a very difficult portion of this matchup, is that you're dealing with this mid-range where I feel like Voldo always has some sort of an edge on you until you get in.
Yeah, so like he basically controlled the spacing like more efficiently, I would say, than Mitsurugi. Especially since most of his moves have tech route positives attached to them.
Yeah.
So you can't really use your anti-steps, for example, because most of them are high. So you basically have to respect Voldo at range when he is like maybe in the best range for his 2-8 and things like that. But the good thing about the matchup is because you don't like only have a good backdash, you also have a very good like front dash. Like the forward dash of Mitsurugi is actually also insane
Okay.
and lets you get in with like 2-2 kicks, which also gives plus frame on counter hit if you manage to use that as anti-step.
Right.
Um, so
I,
you have that. Then you can also try to like get close to the Voldo and get like the free kick after he starts freezing a bit because of the 2-2 kick and because of the like those dash BBs that reach really really far in this game, especially with
okay.
Mitsu.
So yeah, it's a matter of utilizing just good movement in general. Not necessarily. So Valdo would be like the person who's using buttons in a lot of those mid-range things, and you're basically just using movement until eventually that you can kind of corral Valdo
Yeah,
into a position where suddenly, I mean, the second that you get Valdo to block a 3-3K, suddenly you're playing your game. This is the game that you want to play. This is,
yeah,
2-2K on counter hit is a very nice treat, but even just getting him to block something that's so small on block would be amazing.
especially since he's quite slow, I would say, on
Yeah,
average,
yeah,
on a lot of his moves. So like you don't have to always like respect the Voldo if he's only at +2. You
right.
can like just do like those 2A mash and things like that that will force him to Maybe just use tech jump instead of like always go for 2A, because then if he goes for 2A, you can jump kick or even maybe backdash it, and then you get like good, like way more damage than what he does if he gets right. So yeah, I feel like up close you have the edge by like quite a decent margin. You also have like those very scary mix-ups when you are actually at this range.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, he has to deal with both, and he has problems also dealing with like the options of like 1 KB on hit. Minus 14 for Voldo is not like easy to deal with because he has to go for his Punisher, like 4B. Problem is that he loses to basically everything else. If you go into stance and you can armor like the 4BB and get
Yeah.
like the
You can
unblockable
turn it
nail,
into a reverse mix-up that
yeah, you can
is
turn it to
net positive
reverse
for you
become very
heavily.
powerful for
Right.
you.
Is one of the things that I always tend to think about with regards to a weakness of Valdo is the block punishment on minus 12. So I tend to treat him very similar to a nightmare kind of character where I'm totally comfortable going with things that are minus 12 simply to get in. Now with Amy, that is significantly easier. I have a handful of buttons that are fantastic get-in tools where the only weakness is the fact that they're minus 12, and so
Yeah.
at best I eat a two-way from Valdo. Is there a way that you tend to lean on that weakness with Valdo? Are there certain moves with Mitsurugi that allow you to get in where you're only sacrificing a small amount? And what would those moves be if you do have those?
So it's not like really minus 12. It's more about like he doesn't have like a range tool to like punish like 1A. Which
Sure,
means that
yeah, that makes sense.
when he's
Yeah,
back turn, for example, they use a lot of like 8As and
yeah,
things like that
and just
that are
AA,
actually
yeah,
high. Like he starts using high when he's back turn, like the AGIs too is high. So 1A becomes a really big like move to actually
sure.
get in and like try to hard read your opponents like high and like reverse GIs and things like that.
It's not even that hard of a read, just because like it deals with so much of it has so much evasion on top of it, coupled with the fact that like it will effectively catch him if he's just walking around doing nothing, if he's trying to press a high button, if I mean he would almost like kind of have to hard call it out in order to really punish it quite heavily. So you're not even necessarily risking all that much, which is a nice treat.
Yeah, it's always a good thing to like not be wary about like when I going into block and getting punished with
Yeah.
like an umbrella, for example.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Hypothetically speaking.
Of course.
Yeah. So we're going to get into this match. Are there specific kinds of stages that you're looking for against Valdo? I would imagine you want something that's relatively small, but also a totally default stage would be completely fine for you. I mean, it's not like Valdo is really known for unbelievably great ring outs or even wall
Yeah.
combos. Like, he's got okay wall combos as far as I know. Same with his ring outs, but, you know, there's nothing that you're worried about with regards to something like a Yoshi or a Nightmare or something like that, as far as I know.
Yeah, so I don't mind playing against Voldo on like most stages in general. I do feel like maybe the castle I would try to avoid if I could, because he could like basically backdash without like having a care
Oh,
about
sure.
like being close to a wall or a ring
Yeah.
out. But
When
like
you
most of the stages are fine in my
yeah,
opinion.
when you first said castle, I thought you were talking about Geralt's stage, and I was like, well, that's really surprising. I would imagine that you would want that kind of stage. But yes, definitely makes sense that you don't want to deal with an endless backdashing Voldo who has all the screen in the world to kind of deal with.
Yeah. I still feel like the like smaller stage are better like for
Yeah.
Mitsurugi than for Voldo. So like Forest and like even like the Geralt stage, yeah. The ship stage, etc. Those kind of things are I think in Mitsu's favor in that kind of matchup.
You end up getting about as default as a stage as possible right off the bat. And you're immediately going to be able to. So you can kind of tell almost instantaneously just off of the initial option that he chooses here. So 3-3K on block. Both decide to do nothing. You're just kind of, I'm assuming, testing out the waters. And I like the fact that he immediately goes for something that pushes you out. So it kind of
So
automatically shows a game plan there.
so like there is also very small things to notice is that I actually dash forward and block after free kick.
That is a
Per
good
free
point,
kick.
yeah. Yeah,
So
you
it is
do the
because
dash one.
most of the Voldo are gonna press the 2A because, as I said, they don't have like the options of going for a clash. So I want to be as close as possible after blocking the 2A, so I
Right.
dash forward and block.
Man, being able to dash forward and block. It is an experience. What with the fact that I've been only playing online, it is an experience that I miss so heavily, and I am very excited for when it comes back.
Yeah. I can't wait to be able to participate to more tournaments. It's
Yeah.
been a while since I had so much fun in a WUFL tournament.
So getting a solid amount of damage off of these small pokes, utilizing that good backdash, effectively kind of going over like kind of what we were talking about before, where you're utilizing the backdash very similar to what like Mitsurugi in Soul Calibur 5 would use as his 4B, where you're forcing him into a position where it's like, if you want to try and challenge me constantly mashing in your face, you're gonna have to choose one of these really small options, and all of your small options lose to me backdashing and whiff punishing.
Yeah, that's basically what you try to force the Voldo into because
Yeah.
of the like strong movement of Mitsurugi. He will be able to make his 2As with in a lot of situations and get like more damage than what he will ever get by like trying to stop you from mashing.
So difficult to try and think that quickly for an entire losers finals kind of match, because you're going to have to be thinking quite a lot very, very quickly and making constantly very quick decisions. Meanwhile, the slower that you go, the more opportunities that Voldo's going to get like this, where he gets a huge amount of damage off of something that's like a big sweeping hit.
Yeah, like this with punish from Yuttoto was insane. Like with 6-6 kick. That's also why you don't really want to use that most of the time. I thought it was gonna like backdash, but like he kind of read me really well there.
Yeah, he went for something really heavy. It was obvious that I think he was getting a little bit impatient with the fact that the entire match had been going just to you from poking, and so he wanted to get like one of those big sweeping hits in. The reason why I paused it here is because you end up getting this 1KB, and I thought it was an interesting option that he chose to go into the Mantis at that point. What option do you have in that stance that Yuttoto was looking for? I don't actually know why he decided to go into that
So this
stance
move beats both Mist B and also I believe the armor because it's too slow. Armor
Okay.
is slow. Also, it has tech jump frame, so it also beats the kick. So it
Okay.
beats like
Right.
90% of my options.
It actually
But
beats
because
most of everything. Yeah, sure.
yeah, because I saw him like using it earlier when I was not pressing any button, I was kind of expecting it.
Right. That makes sense. Constantly feeling things out and immediately getting something, but of course this is Mitsurugi, so for some reason you still have to you still have to hit him one more time.
Yeah. The good old CE 70,
Yeah.
I believe it's 76 damage that lets 1 HP to your opponent.
How do you typically try to handle Voldo's soul charge? As far as I can tell, the mix-ups, in my opinion, are not necessarily that strong, but he's incredibly good at just forcing a certain amount of pressure, and so what I try to do is just simply weather the storm for as long as I can, by holding block as long as possible. Is that how you tend to try and deal with Voldo's soul charge?
Yeah, I'm actually not too scared about like soul charge because he is heavily focused on trying to deal like quad damage and also like having like excellent containment tools for like 3A plus B and things like that. So you need to be aware of like 6-6 BB, not to like too many of those. So you step a lot when you see him freezing, but as soon as he just starts moving, you need to block because
Yeah.
3A plus B is probably coming. Of course, you could take the read of like maybe ducking to try to block the low portion of the move, which isn't safe. Problem is that, like, of course, if you delay C6BV, you get obliterated. So I prefer in general, like, just handling the pressure by like blocking most of the time. And if I see gap, him delaying on things, I try to step to avoid like taking too much damage on my
Right.
part.
And especially in a situation like this, where if you breathe on him, he's dead. He has to do so much damage in order to. There's really no reason to kind of make a read. You might as well just mitigate any kind of disaster. If anything, if I'm in your position, the fact that he activated Soul Charge is a big win for me because, I mean, especially now with the stage positioning, I mean, you get to just kind of like allow him to kind of make the mistake, which is just walking into a B. And I mean, the idea that now he's going to be lower on meter is a pretty big boost.
Yeah, like I do not think like using the soul charge when you are already that down on HP is like a good strategy overall because you could just use the soul charge to maybe make something happen earlier in the round or use it like on the next round.
Something that I think is kind of a reputation of Japanese players that I think they've well earned is they're very good players, but their meter management is perplexing. They seem to have a tough time understanding that they should be using meter and using it pretty often. I find that Japanese players tend to hold onto their meter to a significant degree, much to their detriment.
Yeah,
It's
Yuttoto did
surprising to
a
me.
like very nice progress on this department
Yes.
though.
Yeah, it
Like
seems like in WUFL specifically, he seemed to be doing a lot better with using his meter. It's just kind of funny because I would argue that that is one of the easiest things for Americans to have figured out, and
yeah.
it took the longest for the Japanese players to catch on to that, which I find interesting. The reason why I ended up pausing it here is that I appreciated the fact that you immediately go for a GI after the 3-3B on block, because I find that most people do end up pressing a button pretty much immediately. Was there a specific reason why you decided to do that there? Was there a read from a previous match or a previous round where you ended up feeling like he was going to be pressing a button in that situation, or was that just your first choice, let's see how this goes?
So in general, it's not my first choice, but
Mm-hmm.
like I know how the Yuttoto matchup looks like in general. He is one of those people that really will take their turn as soon as they see like a gap or like a move that you should probably take your
Mm-hmm.
turn to avoid a mix. So like that's why I like was using like that to my advantage to like just use the GI as soon as I could.
It's always my first option too. I always press a button there, and the last time I played against Woze's Mitsurugi, I think I looked back on the matches, and he went for an immediate GI 10 times, and I got hit by it 10 times.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I even said like out loud, like, "You can just do this every single time. I'm gonna get hit by it every time. I can't. I can't stop it. I can't stop myself." So yeah, this is kind of what you were talking about before. Was his lack of options of dealing with the 1KB on hit there.
Yeah, he has to take like options that are actually in my favor, kinda. Of course, like sometimes he has like things that will stop me from like getting damage and maybe deal a bit of damage, like what he did, like the back turn, like crouch move that he did.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, most of the time, my option will be like more damage than his, even though my option will cover less of his options. So it's kind of like you know, a situation where he will be the winner most of the time in terms of like how often he will hit me, but like his damage would be like way lower than if I guess right.
Right, and I also appreciate the fact that you are mitigating any kind of potential. I mean, the first game was very convincing for you, and I appreciated the fact that you were going for these. You were not completing strings, even if they were small strings like BB and AA, to try and mitigate any potential whiff punish, which is really where Valdo gets like the huge amount of his damage. So I just wanted to mention that I very much appreciate that. Again, we're just trying to play it very compact, very straightforward, and not allow Valdo to get any of the because he's a very polarizing character, right? He doesn't get a lot of damage on so many specific situations, then he gets a ton of damage on some other situations. He's very
Yeah,
similar to Nightmare in that regard, where it's like he's really good at some things and he's really not great at other things. He's not as good as Nightmare, but it's the same kind of abstractly, it's the same kind of idea.
yeah, he has like big weaknesses and big strength.
Yeah,
And the thing is that like he has, as we said before, really bad like punishes in general, like
yeah.
block punishes. But like when you actually whiff, you can obliterate recovery.
Yeah, so it's really just a matter of keeping it as compact as possible. The second that you get Voldo to actually block, then you're good. But then you get into a situation like this where one with punish ended up almost potentially losing you the round, at least tying it up into a
Yeah,
mix. I appreciate the jump K to try and get away from grabs and stuff like that. Yeah, just immediately backing up.
to avoid a mix-up basically.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
jumps are really good for that.
Yeah, that's always been a situation in Soul Calibur, is the fact that even if I'm wrong in this situation, I'm in the air. So it's going to
Yeah.
be a little bit spaghetti. It's going to be a little bit hard for him to try and remember or understand what he needs to do, because probably not going to be expecting you to be jumping in the air at that point. Getting that 3A.
Even if he did, like, you would have to commit a step to actually really punish the jump.
You're right on two exchanges, and then you got lost to a 2-2A.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Like that's
using
the issue when playing 2
236B on block for that incredible pushback, it really seems to be netting you quite a lot against Yuttoto, because I feel like that's the second or third time just in this set so far that I've seen you use 236B for the pushback, and then he seems to immediately try to go in and do something, and you catch him with like an AA or a BB. Is this something that you use against a lot of people, or just characters that have bad block punishment like Valdo?
So like Mitsurugi in general like has problems of handling people mashing in
Hmm.
general, and like 236B is the like best tool you have at like +4 frames to like fish that counter hit.
Hmm.
Um, on block against Voldo, it's completely safe, and because he doesn't have like a great dash, he can't even like make use of his like 14 frames advantage
Right.
to put pressure on me. So I really like this move in general. Um, I try to use it less against characters that punish me hard, but against Voldo, it's a very
Not
very
something
strong
you had to
tool.
worry about at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to have to remember. 236B, I'm trying to remember. Are the tech crouch frames really like something that you can rely on with that with
No,
236B? That's not really a thing, right?
236B. No, there's no tech crouch frames really. Like the
Okay.
236 is tech crouch technically, but like if you press B instantly to get the I-16, you would never have like any tech crouch frames.
Right. Okay. That's a difference between 5 and 6 as well that I guess I never really
Yeah.
thought about before. Yeah, that forward dash is just really getting you so much because you. I appreciate the fact that you give him just enough of a wide berth in this situation because he was clearly on the defensive due to the fact that he was like right next to the wall after this hit, and so he just assumed that you were going to be pressing, and then it was like what was that 4 or 5 backdashes into immediate where you do effectively give up the stage positioning, but it allows you to get him into a situation where he's either going to eat a 2-2K for plus frames or he's going to stay stoic and just statue block, which is a perfect goal either way, which I really like.
Yeah, I often don't really like even the stage advantage when I actually like the lead on HP because it can like they can reverse the position so easily, like stepping on Mitsurugi can't really handle steps, and yeah. I
No, that's
prefer
a good
like to
point.
go
Okay.
back into the
Yeah,
stage.
so you're totally comfortable just resetting the position, knowing that there are, it's kind of Valdo has strengths in, resetting the position. You have strengths in the position, but because Mitsurugi has certain weaknesses with dealing with just like hard committing to a sidestep, and then suddenly you're at the wall.
Yeah.
You would rather sacrifice the advantageous position specifically just to reset it to something that you're more comfortable with. That makes sense.
Yeah, especially since I was like ahead in HP, I don't have like to take
Sure.
any risk to put like more pressure. I don't need that.
Mm-hmm. I like how you did it. I don't know about you, but I would have expected Voldo to after that clash to mash yet another like AA. So I assume that you tried to go for like a 2A to try and tech under that, but his 2A was
Yeah,
faster. For some reason.
yeah. It's like you mean after the 2 hit low, or you mean?
Yeah, let me see if I can. So yeah, it was so it was you got hit by the 2 hit low, and then there's that clash, and then you tried to 2A again afterwards, right? No, that was a 3A. Okay, that's why the 2A won.
Yeah. So the problem like with Voldo back then is like he has like good ways of dealing with 2As. That's why like after the 1A+B you often go for a high
Mm-hmm.
instead because he could like do the tech jump thingy where like he let it through if he
Right.
goes the other way. So even when it clashes, he could still go for it. And like if I actually go 3A there and he does it, I can get a hair combo on it.
So those are chiefly like the 8A and stuff are the options that you typically assume that Evaldo is going to do when he's in backstance in a situation like that.
I think it's 66A,
Oh,
the
six
actual
is A.
input
Okay.
of like yeah, the one where that letter it's when you swap sides, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, right,
Um,
right, right. That's the one.
yeah, yeah, I missed by like very small by a very small distance my 1 kb there. I got punished heavily.
Yeah,
Like
that
those
really
kind of
sucks.
mistakes like cost you everything against
Mm-hmm.
this type of players. Like you whiff from like a millimeter distance and you just die, right?
It's also kind of unfortunate that it looks like so you go for this 3-3B, and I guess you would just kind of assume that because you got the GI the last time that he may change up what his option is, but he kept going with the same option. I always hate it when that happens to me, where I think surely an amount of conditioning has happened and I can use that to my advantage in this situation. And it turns out no, I was just going to keep doing the same thing, and I'm just like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
He had so
So
much
those
life that I guess he just assumed that, or maybe he was just, had a little bit of tunnel vision and was just looking to try and kill you. That 2A in that position, after the 3-3B on block, I guess you could also just like straight up continue the string and blow him up for that as well. But that's a pretty
Yeah,
big
but he
read.
stepped it before,
Yeah,
so
that's a
yeah.
that's a risky thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like Yuttoto is really smart when he uses like different options on 6-6B. He's either like mash instantly or stepping like when there is a potential throw blade follow up. He's very good at mixing things up. So yeah, I was in the wrong there. Like I was doing like options that like just bidding like the either the instant mash and then I was like doing the giant whiff or like the 6-6B on whiff. And then when I was doing the other option, he was still beating me with the other the
Yeah,
good one. He was like kind of reading me like a book there.
yeah. It's one of those situations where it is what it is, and there's not much that you can do. There are a few situations that I wanted to talk about in this round. So you end up trying to complete the string, but you delayed it just enough for the 2A to still find its mark, which was really unfortunate. But then, whenever I'm dealing with a situation where I'm trying to poke out a lot, I end up going to 2. This comes from my SE5 experience, is that Mitsu's 1B, which is 2B in this game, was significantly stronger with regards to damage and hitboxes and all kinds of stuff, but it really seems like it was like the only time that I saw you use that 2B so far this game, and it ends up getting like as heavily punished as possible, plus like the stage positioning, but you also use jump A. I assume this is just for the pushback that allows you to, even though you have bad stage positioning, it gives you just enough range that you're able to backdash in this situation. I assume that was why you decided to go with jump A out of everything else.
So like the 1A, even though I don't really like it that much, it is sometimes the only way you have to like push the opponent away from you and
Yeah.
at the same time avoid like trying those tech jumpy moves that are vertical and then you die because you have the edge just behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So like I kind of like using a 1A sometimes when I don't want to get mixed close to the corner because if you don't do those kind of things, the Voldo will just like throw you.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, again
You're,
and
you're
again.
effectively allowing the Voldo player to get a mix-up that is, on its own, on paper, not really all that strong, but because you're not going to go for, wow, what? He went for a jump? Oh, he tried to go for, like, the jump low, I guess? In, like, that
Yeah.
weird kind of awkward situation. Oh, man, I don't remember what happens here. Nice. That was really good. Oh, those really tight situations. I frankly do not see those kinds of tight, tense situations in any game but Soul Calibur. It's one of the main reasons why I play the game. But yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate. I don't know. It's just it's very difficult for me to see the moves that you use specifically for the pushback to then go into this mid-range kind of thing, just because, again, coming from Soul Calibur 5, I'm not used to playing Mitsurugi where he really feels so much weaker in the mid-range, but the way that you're able to pull off the kind of poking and utilizing the forward dash like you were talking about before is, it's such a tricky dance to try and continue for like a 3 out of 5 or an extended set or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like in this game, Mitsurugi having like worse containment tool than in other games. Like kind of
Yeah,
force you
probably.
to try to mix like forward dash and backstep to make your opponent whiff. And if they like want to mash things during your turn, you also get a lot of damage, right? It's way better than to do like I don't know AA or something that
Right.
will just land to like maybe 22 damage.
Plus, you get the
Um,
pushback where it's like kind of you kind of
yeah.
wanted to keep him in. Yeah, it seems like the more I talk to Mitsurugi players and the more that I play Mitsurugi myself, the more people are, despite the fact that the AA is kind of like a punish in a lot of situations, they will often drop it just simply because AA on hit is just such not a situation that they actually wanted in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of a reset neutral, even though it's +6, it's supposed to be huge. Um, you don't really have anything like to catch like backstepping people after your AA anyway. So like
Hmm.
the reward of you landing your AA is not that great.
Right, you kind of have to make another commitment on top of it, which would be like forward dash into something, which is kind of like it's a bet that you don't really want to take. You don't really feel like you got rewarded in the first place if that's the way that it's going to be.
Yeah.
Man, you've gotten kind of unlucky with breaking these grabs. There's only been a
Yeah.
handful of these grabs, but every single one of them has landed so far.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm really bad at like guessing grabs in general. I don't know, like it was the same against Balti Wolf, by the way. I think like in the first like the first day of the tournament where
Hmm.
like I played against Balti Wolf.
Yeah.
I think he grabbed me or he tech grabbed 7 times in a row. At some point, it can be really random, right? You're
Yeah.
just like, you're just stupid.
Well, when people end up breaking my grabs, I'm totally comfortable with it because it's command grabs predominantly, so at the very least I'm getting some sort of meter. But when I can't break any of their grabs, how do you... This is kind of an abstract concept, but like, it is so easy to irritate me in this game with stuff like that, where I just don't... Like, if I'm just wrong about 6 or 7 grabs in a row, it affects my playstyle to such a degree because now I can't rely, because I'm so unconfident about my ability to break grabs, I end up ducking in a lot more situations, which is effectively a risk in and of itself, right? Especially against certain characters. So, how do you keep your composure? Is there something that you try to do to keep your composure for just chalking it up to, well, it's kind of unfortunate that I'm not breaking these grabs, but I shouldn't allow it to affect my playstyle? Or do you allow it to affect your playstyle? Do you change, like, what decisions you make on the day if it just doesn't seem like you're breaking grabs today?
So yeah, so sometimes like when I actually see that like I cannot for some reason like read what the opponent's grabs are, I try to either stop using moves that will let him have that grab mix up, or like add a lot of backdashes. I can also like sometimes start ducking if I see him like not like mix him up his throw with like a lot of mids. But yeah, it's still a really big risk to take. So I prefer in general like trying to not use the move that will actually lead to that setup, like that kind of throw mix up from him.
And it's so especially frustrating in a matchup like this, where, so if you take a character that naturally has a certain level of mix up when they're in your face, then ducking, standing, all that kind of stuff is stuff that you're thinking about all the time anyway. But you take a character like Voldo, whose mix ups when in front turn just kind of in your face are not really necessarily the strongest. You want to try and take advantage of those weaknesses by just standing and not actually giving him any kind of potential mix up for his strong mids, because he doesn't really have it. I mean, he's got like the 2-hit low, which is something, but it's nowhere near the same level as something like Amy, or a character that has very strong mix-ups when they're in your face. So then on top of it, to also just constantly lose to the grab, it frustrates me to such a degree, because I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is not a mix-up character. I don't want to duck in this situation. I don't like the fact that I'm getting... Is that the reason why that duck happened there, because of the grabs?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's like at some point, like you when you like when opponent is really low, especially Yuttoto, he will like take more risk, right? And because he noticed that I was not ducking, I mean, like breaking his grabs, he instantly went for the grab. Like, and you can also see that I'm not waiting for anything. I'm just ducking and pressing rising kick instantly.
Right. Because he's also one hit away. You might as well just continue on with, like, so
Yeah.
arguably it wasn't even necessarily from the grab. You just wanted to do instant while rising kick, which also makes sense.
Yeah. So it builds both grabs and like very slow or very big verticals at the same time. Yeah, it basically is covering the options I don't want to deal with at the time.
I like the fact that, so he's clearly trying to, like, steal this game from you. With this last piece of meter, and I like that there was a kind of like an immediate sidestep after you see him go into that stance for the slide, for a
Yeah.
potential mix-up and stuff. That's always
We
one of the
know that.
scariest things from Voldo.
We know that one. Online,
Yeah.
when I actually play Raziel, even though we have like a good connection, I don't know, like I try to do it. As soon as I see him like turning around,
Right.
I try to do it. It's always too slow at
Yeah.
getting out there.
Anytime I see somebody get hit by what we call the BS slide, that has always been the term that has been coined since Soul Calibur 4. When I see somebody get hit by that, and then I look at their face and they look like a bit surprised, I think, yeah, this guy clearly hasn't played Soul Calibur 4, because in Soul Calibur 4 you dealt with that all the
Yeah.
time, constantly.
The classic.
Yeah. Just trying to weather that storm. Yep, trying to get through that. Wow, that kick didn't end up catching. Voldo's hurtbox is disappearing. Oh my god. Just immediately trying to reset the situation, because he clearly needs to get a little bit more momentum out of his soul charge. He still has so much work to do that, yeah, it makes sense that you would, again, just try to, like, reset the situation. You're so good at that kind of neutral, despite the fact that Voldo has so many good buttons in those neutral positions, you tend to come out on top like every single time. You're the one that's creating the whiffs and everything. So you might as well just go with what you as a player, or you as the character are good at, and just continue to reset the and let them kind of make
Yeah,
the mistake.
I also kind of feel like it's a very big strength of Mitsurugi in that matchup is like he has such a good backstep that if the Voldo is in backstance, it cannot catch you.
Right.
So you should as well just backdash every time
Especially
instead
if
of like
he's in
taking
Soul
any risk.
Charge and you're not. I mean, you might as well waste the time to the point where he's no longer in Soul Charge. That way you only have to deal with a weaker character.
Yeah, exactly. I just want him to waste the rest of his meta
Yeah.
down, like just go back to the neutral.
Neutral situation seems to be coming up a lot in this round. It ends up going to Yuttoto. But punishing a lot with 6BB. Is it possible in these situations where you whiff punish with 6BB to try and get 4KB instead for a bigger amount of damage, or is it too slow / doesn't have the same amount of hitboxes?
Yeah, you can do it if you are like really good at reacting to these things. It's just like I feel like I-20s, even though that's doable, it's still like harder to do. And
Right.
also the problem is that like Yuttoto is very good at stepping the follow up. So if you mess up, you're gonna get 66B little hit.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Not necessarily the
Where
same
like
amount of risk.
6B on block is really good against Voldo.
Ooh, now he's pressing more buttons. Now he's trying to get into your face and press significantly more, just like tiny stuff, catching you when you're trying to like step in, which was not what really he was doing before. So you immediately go
Yeah.
with the 1A. I like that.
More aggressive version of Yuttoto. I
Yeah.
really like the fact that he managed to like switch up his playstyle way more than before.
Yeah, it seems significantly, which is kind of funny because people who, when I think of Yuttoto, I think of somebody who pulls out a random character for sticky situations a lot more than other people. Link Wars is like this too, where they pull out these other characters at times to deal with a situation for one reason or another they don't feel comfortable with their like legitimate main. And when I deal with people like that, I don't often see them actually alter how they play one character, meaning rather than try to adapt their style to the situation, they end up just picking a different character who naturally has a different style. So big ups to Yuttoto for being able to carry characters like, I don't know if he still plays as well, but you know, when he played as well and when he plays Zos and all that kind of stuff, to be able to also still adapt a pretty unique character like Voldo to a different situation, that is very much not easy. I can't really think of
Yeah.
anybody at the moment that does it to quite that successfully.
Yeah, we can see he's used to play like multiple character style. Like he can like kind of pick them as much as you want in tournaments, and he still managed to like really play at high level. So
Yeah.
I don't know how he does that because when I do play Wong, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it feels like I need like time to adapt to like the new playstyle I'm actually using.
Yeah, when you're juggling so many characters, especially if you're a character main intensive guy like you are, I would imagine it takes a really long time because you've spent so much time with this one character. It's so difficult to do the same kind of adaptability with a different character with a totally different kind of moveset, especially a character like Huang, who is potentially like the most complicated character in the game, I would say, with two drastically important mechanics and how they interact with each other and all those
Yeah,
all
he
those
has a
stances
lot
and
of
everything.
different mechanics to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if it yeah, for sure he's complicated. He's a complicated character, but I don't know like if he should like get that title. Like it's still like quite an
New,
easy
still early.
game in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like he's still in the Soul Calibur realm of characters in terms of how complex it is. I think, for example, if I would name one character, I would like probably consider like the most like the harder to like handle like in terms of like how he plays out and things like that would be probably Maxi actually.
That makes sense.
Still, I
Yeah.
think Maxi has like more
Less
complicated
mechanics, but
situation that
so
you
many
have
more
to.
stances. And the fact of the matter is that the idea of like playing, so like you take somebody like Noah, who you might know from NLBCs and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. When he plays Voldo, he basically never goes into stances. Then you have somebody like Manta, who's from the West Coast, who's been playing Voldo since forever, who virtually always goes into stances. And, you know, Noah has this ability to utilize certain moves that Voldo has that are just straight up neutral good, that don't necessarily require stances, and that's the way that he plays it. For Maxi, I don't even know if that's even possible because you effectively go into stances just off of small punishes on top of, like, everything goes into a stance, which then goes into another stance, which goes into another stance. I don't even know if you can make the conscious decision to, like, not go into stance. I'm not even sure if that's possible. It was in 5, but I don't know so much about 6.
Yeah, in 6, like it's kind of funny because on the EU scene we have like two different like we have more than that, like, but basically like the two strongest player we have with like Maxi right now. I think it's probably Yin, and the second best would be probably Fanli. And
I don't
like
know
those
family.
two,
Okay.
yeah, those two players have like very, very completely different style. Like one is more aggressive in stance, and use like 7-star rebuff and things like that with the
Uh-huh.
friendly playstyle. And like Yin is playing like more neutral heavy and try to cancel the stand as he can to avoid like it being into a risky situation. I should have punished harder there, but yeah.
Yeah, Yin is somebody that I've known for a long time. I actually used to play him in Soul Calibur 5 all the time. For some reason, our connection was always really good. Was this the round where you got I wanted to go back because that 1A looked about as satisfying as possible, and I wanted to see it again.
Yeah, the good
Yeah, that
or
was
read
fantastic.
1A,
Yeah.
really risky, but when it works.
I think it was worth that kind of risk because you were already you had won so many exchanges. I know they're really small exchanges, but you already had a significant amount of damage, and I think just the reward matched up with the risk in that situation. He would have had to have done at least a semi-hard read in order for it to be too big of a deal.
Yeah, it's not even that. Like that situation, I love it a lot. So it also beats the BS 4 kick. That's why I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it covers a lot of options. We kind of messed up a bit. We could see that, like, we can see this round. It's kind of like we are both under pressure.
Yeah, yeah.
We like missed like one punishes like both.
I'm not necessarily a big fan of this meter usage from Yuttoto. Yet again, I mean, I can kind of
Yeah,
understand it.
I don't agree
but
with this one.
yeah, and you end up being like aggressive in this situation because, frankly, I mean, what is he going to hit you with that's going to beat the BB there? He's going to hit you with like the 66B, which is going to be some damage, but you have so much life. I don't know. I find that using Soul Charge in a situation like that, although he did have the stage positioning, he had so much work to do that it was going to be obvious that he was going to go for something that was very ambitious. He was going to go for something that was a really heavy read. In which case, why even give that to him? Why not just, I'll just do this, and if I'm wrong, I can be wrong 3, 4, maybe even 5 times and still be okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like this one was this was a bit too risky. This Soul Charge should have been used like earlier in this round instead.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
seemed like in that round he hyperextended himself to such a degree that it became too obvious. And at this point, I feel like you've effectively, like, he is still getting a little bit of mileage with the fact that he's now incorporating buttons to beat your dash-ins, but it's mitigating the amount of pressure that's going on. It's not necessarily when you are in, you're still getting the damage. So it was a good adaptability, but it's not necessarily enough. Well, he gets a good punish there. So he's getting like a few good punishes, but just when we're in that neutral game, he's extending himself just a little bit too much.
Yeah, he also mixes really well his wake ups after my back throw, to be
True.
honest. Like,
Yeah.
back throw of Mitsu doesn't really give you a big
No.
frame advantage, so it
Yeah.
makes forward tech and mash away, or like sometimes forward techs into step like he did before, which is really good.
Yeah,
Really
that's
well
always been the
implemented.
case for Mitsurugi's back throws. That his
Yeah.
forward throw / A grab has always been the number one. That's always been the best. And then his B grab, as good as his A grab is, his B grab was just as bad. So we end up going to the last round here. 1 round to 1 round. No real guard damage. Guard damage really hasn't come up virtually at all. And in this situation, I always kind of imagine it's going to come down to who uses their bar better. Yuttoto, weirdly enough, not really the kind of person. So you decide, to interrupt myself, you decide to go with a 6A plus B here. You didn't want to use CE to potentially use the
Oh
meter
no,
that way?
you never want to use CE there. No,
Okay.
yeah, like, so CE gives you Shura Blade basically,
Mhm.
and I believe like the difference is 21 damage. So
Okay.
you get 21 damage, but you have worse Oki, but you have Shura Blade. Thing is, Shura Blade is not important against Voldo at all. Like, he has like almost no minus well.
I see. Okay.
And then like you prefer like keeping the Soul Charge for when he is in Soul Charge, so you push him back,
Yeah.
and then you get like the momentum back. you can maybe even make him waste the entire soul charge by backdashing, as I said, like, and it will still let you get like some like attacks with your soul charge.
Yeah, the first part I didn't even think about. Yeah, Sure Blade not even really all that powerful against Voldo, so it's not really all that worth it in that regard. Not to mention, obviously, the Oki, which ends up netting you a 1BB on top of it. It looks like you just want a Soul Charge to try and potentially end it off of like 2 mix-ups. Doesn't end up
Yeah,
working out, though.
yeah, the soul charge is, I think, is good here because you don't want to be -10 in front of the Voldo. You just want to get away now. So soul charge is good because it saves you already 1 mix-up.
Man, this got so very close. Very, very tight stuff. Again, just trying to weather the storm.
Yeah, my soul charge went off just at the time I was pressing the new
Yeah.
move.
I hate it when that happens. Oh man, button, button, button. that's the way. Yeah. You had done so many backdashes. It's really just, I find like both of you, you more so than Yuttoto, but both of you incorporating so many small pokes on top of backdashes to force the opponent to make a decision whether they think that you're going to go for a backdash or whether they're going to go for a small poke. And especially in a situation where both players are at yellow life, it's so scary. 2-2B, 2A, AA. I like that a lot. Oh man, look at that gasp at the end there.
Yeah,
Man.
like this like was super close. Like at the end, like I did.
Doesn't get much
2B,
closer, yeah.
I'm like mash 2A because I'm scared of him throwing instantly, and then like wait a few frames, I see him like dashing in front of me. I'm like, okay, no,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to again try to break that throw and die. Like just press it, just mash.
Well, it's also the situation pseudo similar to what we had before when we were talking about how when you have a life lead, you're totally comfortable relinquishing the stage positioning, even if it's good, to reset into kind of a more neutral position. But for one, you obviously didn't. I mean, you had a quote unquote life lead in that situation, but both players are still effectively dead to one thing, and keeping your opponent in this restrictive space, coupled with the intense pressure of the fact of you know that in Yuttoto's head, he's thinking, I have to be right about one thing, or I'm dead, and I lose this tournament. So I appreciate the mashing, if only because, again, you were worried about the grab just because you've been so unsuccessful with breaking these grabs, and it's probably something that he was thinking as well. So, yeah, very tight, very tight stuff in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, like the like 2-2B into 2A, it's a classic because there is a small pushback on 2-2B, so they need to kind of dash forward to do the throw. And just after the 2A on block, I could like, because he was kind of far from me, I could see him dashing. So I just had to take back my turn basically. I was actually kind of lucky because trades it actually trades, so that means
Right.
like one if I was like 1 frame slower, he would actually grab me and get again another mix-up and throw.
Yeah.
But
Man,
yeah.
man. Yeah, that's something. Now that I've been talking with you about the match, something that I never really think about with Mitsu, and I don't necessarily see or hear other Mitsus really talking about as much as you, is taking advantage of the amount of pushback that different moves have for Mitsurugi. You tend to, when you were talking about the bonuses that certain setups and certain moves have, you were always talking about the pushback, 236B, 1A,
Yeah.
now 22B, and that's something that you really take into account a lot. I assume one of the main reasons why you take that into account to such a degree is because, again, you want to try and take advantage of your backdash and how the pushback couples with the backdash to create another whiff punish opportunity, which is something that you tend to use to renowned success. So that's interesting. That's something that I'm going to have to remember for,
Yeah.
Pushback for Amy is not really something that you think about really all that much.
Yeah, it's like Amy is more of a pressure character, but
Yeah.
like Mitsurugi in general, like he has pushback on everything, even on hit. So you kind of have to use that like to create opportunities for you to whiff punish opponent because, as I said, Mitsurugi is not the best one at containing people after even his move on hit because you are like too far most of the time for
Right.
using 1KB. Unlike 3A, for example, will only works after like a 2B on hit or things like that. And like if you already land a 2B on hit and then go for a 3A, you effectively won 2-man games in a row, right? But you
Right.
only get like
Such a
30,
small amount, yeah.
34, 36 damage for that. Like it's you don't win games by using those things. Where like getting like with punishes. I do feel like I use 6 BB, for example, a bit too much. I should probably try to get that 4 kick, as you said earlier,
If you can,
a
obviously,
bit more.
easier said than done, but especially with the way that certain moves in this game seem to recover so much quicker than you would expect. But yeah, that's just the Soul Calibur 5 coming out of me, where 4KB was like the primo punish that you would end up trying to do. But, it's
Yeah.
only something that you can have work so many times.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's also the fact that like Yuttoto, most of the time at least, with like very quick recovery moves. And like if you are too greedy with it, as I said, it can get blocked and just turn around the games in his favor. So I still, as I said, I still feel like I have work on like that department, like for the 4KB. Um, I think I'm on point on like with punishing like up close. I 6 plus view when I can,
Yeah.
for example, on throws and on like big
Well,
quiz.
with all that
But
being
like yeah,
said, I feel like, there is also an argument just on a personal or mental level where there are going to be some situations where you're going to be able to get 6BB as a whiff punish. There are also some other situations where you can get 4KB as a whiff punish. And would you rather be super consistent and always getting the 6BB punish and the potentially dropping additional damage where you could have gotten 4KB, or have both of those in your head, but sometimes you end up being wrong about which one is going to work and you could potentially get whiff punished? So I think a certain resource that we don't necessarily talk about is just the mental resource, the attention resource that we have in our own heads. And so, changing up different whiff punishes can potentially get you screwed up in a lot of situations. So there's a very fine line that you have to juggle for trying
yeah,
to maintain all of those whiff punishes in your head whilst never actually dropping them when they're available. It's always better to get some damage in a situation rather than necessarily the optimal. But especially at this level, the level that you compete at, you kind of have to get all that. You kind of have to get all that damage as much as possible. You don't get that many opportunities. Yuttoto doesn't give you that many opportunities to do that kind of thing.
yeah. It's also not only the damage, but like the knockdown for KB is really
True.
nice to
Yeah.
get, like compared to like just 6BB. If you
Yeah.
go like 6BB is like I think 34 damage or 40 damage, but -2. So it's really kind of low, right?
Right.
So you would like, if possible, to optimize with 4KB.
A very poor mix-up
Also,
versus the knockdown. Yeah.
yeah. Also, another thing is like against some of the characters, it kind of is a big problem to have that habit, because I do have like the habit of like at range going for 6BB like 90% of the time, because of consistency thing. Except if I'm Android running, but this is another matter. But like for example, when I played Woes in the final, yeah, I use too many 6BB like,
Yeah.
and they when they finish on block, instead of like just being like at 0, just like normal characters, I get umbrella every
Yeah,
time.
yeah. That was definitely the tail of the tape in the grand finals, and I think he really
Yeah,
showed that matchup looks
that,
impossible.
like
It frankly looks very
that,
similar to
but
what
not.
Mitsu versus Alpha Patroclus was in SC5. It looks where you're just suffocated. You can't do any of the things you want to do.
Yeah, I don't think this matchup is doable. It's just like you need to be really, really on point with how you handle like with punishes, for example, like when, as I said, me like using too many 6BBs. Also, there is a way of dealing with umbrella there. You need to delay, I think, by 3 or 5 frames. I don't exactly remember. Like
Okay.
the Misty will catch umbrella if you delay enough. Our problem is that it's actually really hard to, get the timing,
Right, that's
especially since I'm not used to PlayStation 4.
well, yeah.
So
Also,
like,
coupled with the fact that like you're doing it like in a tournament setting. Even saying
yeah.
tournament setting is kind of underestimated because you're talking about a grand final for a lot of money and a lot of prestige and everything. Whenever there's like something that's that tight, for somebody like me, I'm just like, I'm not even going to bother with this because I know that in a tense situation, I'm just going to screw it up, and then I'm going to get mad at myself, and then by the time I'm finished getting mad at myself, I've already lost another round because I wasn't really in the best headspace, and I very much have to think about the mental aspects of it because you only have so much patience in order to deal with, not getting those really tight executional situations. Very very difficult stuff.
Yeah, everything like you need to be on point with so many things to be able to, yeah, take the most out of it. Like in every matchups, like I said, set Sky is very different. But yeah. Oh, and for Cheetos in the chat, yeah,
What's
like
faster,
so
Setsuka's
what?
4 dash or a very well executed 236
Yeah, oh
wave
yeah, there
dash?
was that question. I missed this one
Oh,
too.
there was another one.
I don't really know about like those two the differences. It feels like for one, if you do 1, 2, 3, 6, it's probably faster than to dash. But like if you have to do more than one, probably dash is better.
If I can ever pin down woes to actually get, which is funny because he's the person that I've known the longest, yet he's also the hardest person to pin down for one of these, then that is a question that I will definitely ensure to ask him about so that I can understand what kind of movement ability that his character has
Yeah.
and which way he ends up going with it.
And for Cheetos, yeah, so 1AB in that matchup is not really the problem because in reality, like all the characters can punish very, very hard 1AB of Mitsu. The problem is that I am forced to go for 1AB if I don't see like the high whiff I was expecting because 1A isn't safe against Setsuka.
Right.
So it's like
It's just
you
bad
are
news
forced.
bears either way.
Yeah, both are bad basically. I just have to hope the opponent like doesn't know like step in on reactions every time. If he does, yeah, then you're kind of screwed. You can't really use 1A. Then that means you cannot really, stop Setsuka from attacking you with like the 6-6A on 8 builds KA. Those two moves are very, very strong in the matchup. Then like yeah, you kind of ends up like me, like not having like using things, not being able to do things. Then like opponent just like smashing 6-6B everywhere and like doing 1Bs that you cannot step because you are scared of 6-6A on 8 that you cannot like stop them from using. So yeah, like the matchup is hard. I still think I could have done better, to be honest. Just by actually using how to deal with the umbrella after the six BB. But yeah, those
Yes,
are like
something
the
that I'll
matchup.
definitely try and talk with Woes with, because assuming I can actually get Woes almost decidedly, we were talking about the grand finals. Maybe just this might not be possible, but maybe we'll be able to get both of you, and then you can kind of talk about both. Both perspectives of the grand finals set. It might be a little bit difficult to corral, but it's certainly something that I can give a try. But until then, seeing as how the match is over, I don't want to keep you here for too long. And I just wanted to say, Skill, thanks again for going over the match with Yuttoto, really utilizing the backdash, but also the knockback that moves have, especially on block, is something that I frankly never really thought about with regards to Mitsurugi, and so it's definitely something I'm going to try to incorporate in my Mitsurugi game plan, but something that a lot of people who poo-poo Mitsurugi's ability to play in this game, it is definitely challenging, and I can understand people having a frustration with things like AA on hit and stuff, but there are ways of utilizing Mitsurugi knockback on moves, especially on block, that can create more whip punish opportunities. Just maybe not so much. It probably doesn't work anywhere as good online as it does offline.
Yeah, like it's basically a game where like movement. When you are in an online environment, you can't really make use of like those forward dash because you get hit by most of their like long range stuff without being able to react to them on blocking them last second. So like of course movement is weaker like online than offline. And yeah, I mean it's a lot of work to put like into the game to just kind of blindly lab things that you have to practice in an environment that
Right.
it seems to not work, but when you're actually offline, it pays off.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, Yeah.
Before you end up leaving, Cheetos did have one last question just to ask you to explain exactly how you move, just due to the fact that your backdash canceling seems so clean. I imagine that's just practice, but is there a specific technique that you have for backdashing?
So it's the 4G cancel. So
Yeah.
like every character has like better backdash cancel. Some characters wants to maybe 4-4-4-4 with a, like timing depending on how fast like how long is the backdash basically. So the cancel would be like maybe slower with a nightmare, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
for 4G, it's basically the same thing. Mitsurugi like has a kind of long backdash, so you need to wait a bit but like not too much because if you wait too much, you will actually you will travel like farther, but the problem is it will take too much time compared to what you will get as a bonus distance.
Yeah, your
Uh
recovery time will increase
yeah.
tenfold.
So you should probably just cancel a bit sooner than like a nightmare or thing like that. and then like just do it again, right? That's why I double backdash most of the time.
And then other than that, it's just a lot of practicing for that kind of movement. I
Yeah,
think just making
it's a
sure that
lot
it's
of
really tight.
practice.
Yeah.
It's a lot of practice for the movement. I feel like with Mitsurugi, because he's so focused on this aspect, probably it's one of the main thing people should learn him. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
backdash
think
canceling is
the
broken.
backdash canceling, I think,
Yeah.
is very important for Mitsurugi, and I think it's very important for Cervantes. Without that, especially with Cervantes, at least in my opinion, he's just this sluggish character that really doesn't have the ability to do anything. And then the second you get the backdash canceling, the world opens up for you. It's so drastically different.
Yeah,
But
I agree with you.
thanks very much. I will be putting this on YouTube in not too much time. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, in case you haven't seen some of the other ones that I have ones with the exact same kind of video analysis with Linkors, with Party Wolf. I'm hoping to get everybody that I can that was involved in the WUFL event to have as one of these matches. And Skyll, if you have any last words before I end the video, by all means.
Yeah, like I'm really happy that you invited me to this. It was
I'm
really
happy that
cool
yeah.
discussing about that, like one of the only offline tournament I did like for years now.
Yeah, it's
So
not really
thanks
something
again.
that you get to, with commentary. One of the reasons, I'm not sure if I ever told you or anything, but one of the reasons why I started this way back in Soul Calibur 5 is because I was playing against somebody who I knew pretty well. We were just putzing around with Soul Calibur 5 online, and we were just doing alternate characters. And I remember thinking to myself, this guy that I'm playing against, he knows frame data of these like random alternate characters that I'm playing a lot better than I do. He understands the mix-ups better than I do. He understands everything that you can learn in a strategy guide, everything that you can learn on paper, so much better than I do. And yet I'm destroying him. I'm winning convincingly every single game. Why is that? What is it about what I'm doing, despite the fact that I don't have the same amount of on-paper knowledge, that is setting me apart from him? And I think that there is this gap where a lot of players, and I think this has frankly only gotten worse in Soul Calibur 6, is that people learn all of the strategy guide stuff that you can in Soul Calibur 6, but they don't really look into the mental part of what it means to adapt your thinking without it getting in the way of your ability to play the game. Like, you're constantly thinking about a whole bunch of different variables with regards to what your opponent's thinking about and making certain reads, and a lot of it kind of falls flat for a lot of people. They don't make that leap from knowing all the frames and all the particulars that you can learn in a computer and actually applying an additional level of cerebral thinking to what the opponent's game plan is. So that's really what these videos are about. Obviously we don't get to have anywhere near as much time when we're doing commentary talking about all these things. There are little insights that I can provide when I do commentary during live matches, but pre-recorded is the only way, because we've probably been talking for like an hour about one set, and so you just don't have that kind of time for other stuff. And this is the reason why I started doing this video series, however many years ago that was.
Yeah, I mean, like I like this series a lot. I also will wait for the video, like maybe the Google translation of Yuttoto or
Yeah,
Kura.
that would be very tough. I would have to have
I can't
pre-prepared
wait for those.
questions. We would have to have a translate. That would be really. It would be great, but I just don't think logistically. I just don't think that it would be possible. Maybe in the future. Maybe when I become a superstar and I learn Japanese and I fly over there just to talk to him about one single match that he had. Maybe, that's way in the future. But thanks again, Skyll. Thanks to everybody who joined me in the Twitch chat for this. If they were watching it live, you can see the link down below, and I will see everybody next time, where my guest will be a different person.
Oh,
Yes. Thanks very much, guys.
mystery.
Yes. And I will see you guys next time. All right, thanks very much.
Bye.